Steve. A gentleman that wanted to be here today, and because of an open house on another college campus far north of here could not be, is Mr. Bill Brown from Toyota Motor Sales in Torrance, California. Mr. Brown is the Central United States Area Administrator for the T10 program. As we said this morning, the program is divided up nationally into 3 geographical areas, and with roughly 20 to 22 schools in each of those 3 areas. And Mr. Brown and the national T10 manager, Mr. Gary Frank, sent their regrets. The purpose of this television tape back here is certainly for their investigation of how good we're doing today. To be perfectly frank with you, as we said this morning, we're teaching them how this is done. And they wanted to bestow upon you just a little bit of a congratulations for being here today, and a thank you very much for the tremendous support that T10 gets in this area of the world. And in front of each of you, when you came back in from lunch, should have been a little T10 keychain. Hopefully, did everybody get one? And that is from T10 from the national level. And again, their regrets that they couldn't be here today, but the business of T10 continues. The next speaker that I have for you here today, I think will have a slightly different slant on this whole program. And of course, we've talked about target recruitment and how are we going to go and find them. Yet to come this afternoon, a little bit more later on what do we do with them while they're on the internship. And certainly one of the concerns that all of us have is how do we pay these guys and how do we take good care of them and hang on to them? Retention would be a big part of the entire story. Integrating this person into the dealership most definitely is a part of the picture that we need to be thinking about as well. So the next gentleman that I have to speak to you today is Mr. Steve Nelson from Gulf States Toyota. And Steve is our merchandising manager, service management training manager, and how many other caps do you wear?
Somewhere in there.
Mr. Steve Nelson.
Thank you. I'll take a few minutes here. I started my automotive career as a technician, and it took me, I guess it was about probably 3 oil changes, I think, to master that. And the only reason it took 3 was on my 3rd oil change, I had to figure out how they took that little filter and put that big toilet roll in there. Okay? And I guess it's kind of just a little surface joke here, but one of the things we see a lot with the T10 students is they're brought into a dealership and all they do is change oil. Okay? It doesn't take long to master that. These guys have the skills well beyond oil changes. And what we need to do is begin getting them to do other things, okay? Something more important like changing coolant. Now, I mean, they're a little more sophisticated than that. And like we've been pointing out all day, they are more than an entry-level technician. They are far capable of doing more than that. They can do a lot of electrical stuff. And even in their co-op program, some of your master guys are a little queasy on it. So, and I'm not saying that they are super excellent techs coming out of there, but they do have some skills that we certainly need to recognize. And putting them in just oil changes and stuff like that is not good for these guys. It's not good for our future. Probably one of the key things that they are short on is obviously experience and speed. Okay, but they're going to get that over a period of time. Everybody started out that way, and I remember back when I started as a tech, I was kind of the gopher type guy, did all the odds and ends around the shop. I did stuff at home far superior to that type stuff. Okay. And again, these guys are capable of more than that. So when they get to the shop initially in the co-op program, or it doesn't have to be just a T10 student, it can be somebody that you are hiring off the street that is an entry-level type guy, but you don't really know how to pay the guy yet. One of the key things to do with this guy is try to get them to work with a master tech. And as has been pointed out before, that's pretty difficult because this guy is earning a living. And it's a little hard to ask him to take a few minutes a day, more than a few minutes, to help train a T10 or an entry-level guy how to do certain things. Certainly, even with what I'm going to present here, it's not going to relieve him of those duties. I mean, he's still going to have to take compensating the guys before, where you maybe for a period of time take and bump up the master tech's pay, and then he pays a certain amount of that money back out to the tech, as his apprenticeship goes on. That's a pretty good method. What I'm going to present here now is a method that is being used by quite a few stores now, and some of you guys that have gone through our APS seminars recently have obviously seen and heard about it and probably use it today. It's a fairly new method, and I say new, it's probably been around about 3 or 4 years. It just takes time to get around everybody. But it's called parameter-based hiring. And what we try to do with virtually anything we do in the Gulf States area as far as training for management, et cetera, is put something in place that is good for all parties involved. Okay? If we put something in place, it's got to be to the benefit of not only the dealer or the customer in many cases, but also to the employee. And that's one of the things we want to do with perimeter-based hiring. I think what I'll do is just go ahead and pass these out so you get kind of an idea as I'm talking about it. These numbers are just for sample. They're not to say specifically this is how much you're going to pay the guy. Okay. What we want to do here in this case is we got an apprentice or a T10 student that we bring in. T10 students will be treated just a little bit differently since their co-op program lasts what about 3 weeks, 4 weeks? 7.5. We'll run through this first as just an apprentice tech that you're bringing in office. We'll talk about how to implement this for the T10 shortly. Let's say we decide we're gonna pay this guy $240 a week to work for us. What we want to do is take our current cost of sale, okay, which in this case is 31%, and we're going to divide that $240 by that effective cost of sale, and also divide it by our effective labor rate. And this gives us, in this case, 19.7 hours. So the effective cost of sale, basically, that I'm using here is telling us that if we were to go ahead and have him work for $240 a week, he must turn 19.7 hours. That way, he will be virtually washing out us paying him. In other words, it would be like giving any one of our average technicians the job. Okay? That way, it doesn't cost us anything virtually to have this guy on board. Right? If he turns less than 19.7, obviously it's coming out of our pocket. So that's what we're going to do initially. Now that 19.7 becomes his objective. And let's say we want to tie him with a master technician. And we'll just take that scenario, I guess, first, because there's a couple options on that. What we want to do is then ask the master technician to work with this guy and maybe have him do more than the oil changes, get him to do maybe some initial startups on tune-ups and maybe even some diagnostic type stuff. But his obligation will be to make sure that he gets this guy 19.7 hours a week. We're going to take our effective cost of sale, which is 31%, or in this case, based on our current labor rate, it would be $12.17. And we take 80% of that number, which is $9.74. Now, the reason we're taking 80% of that is because this is where the dealership benefits a little bit. Okay? Beyond the 19.7 hours, anything that tech return, okay, we are going to put 20% in our pocket. In other words, instead of breaking even, what we want to do is now pay out a little bit less on any job he does over that 19.7, but also add some money to our pocket. Okay. We're only at putting 20% away, so we're talking about $3 for every hour return. Doesn't sound like a whole lot, but you can start adding up. That way, it does reduce our cost of sale slightly. Okay, so there's a benefit to us. What we're going to do is that anything over 19.7 in a week that he turns, So you can obviously see real quickly that he's going to have to do a lot of oil changes to get to 19.7 initially, and then a whole lot more for the master technician ever making money. So he's going to be a little more inclined to ask you to do some things that maybe require a little more talent, maybe in which you guys do have. Now again, we will be working in this scenario with just an average guy we're taking off the street to train. Now, what we're going to do is take that money that goes into a fund, okay, that will be paid out at the end of some undisclosed period of time. Every week, what you will do is come out to that master technician and let him know how many dollars he's accumulating in this fund. Okay. That gives him an opportunity to tell you, or you will ask him basically, do you think this guy's going to work out? Yeah, I think he's going to be a pretty good tech. He's turning some good hours right now. I think he's going to be a keeper for us. Okay, you got $150 in the account right now. I'll let you know at the end of next week how much you got. And we go through the same scenario. The next week he tells him that he may have $380 in the account. Okay, all along what he's trying to do, or the service manager's trying to do then, is determine whether this guy is ever going to make it as a technician. Now, the master tech, if he decides at one point in time that he's not, he's got to make a decision. Okay? If I say he's not going to make it, I lose all the money that's in that account. Okay? If I decide that he's going to make it, then I've got to make him make it, so I'm going to spend a little more time to make sure it's going to work out okay. This period of time can last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 months, 6 months. Depends on how long he thinks he needs to train the guy. All the time that he's doing his work, he's accumulating money in his account. When he decides that this person is ready to go on the line and turn hours, okay, he has to do that for a 30-day period of time. If he does for a 30-day period of time, at the end of that time, we're going to pay that master technician whatever is in that account, and amount to a lot of money. Versus a guy that had $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 in that account. I can tell you they're going to make that guy work for at least 30 days. Okay. In fact, one of us kind of comical was a group leader up in somewhere on the East Coast. He came in one day. He was supposed to work this particular Saturday. He came in and the service manager says, "Boss, I got to take Saturday off." "Why do you have to take Saturday off?" "Well, I got to go to a Grateful Dead concert." He says, "John, you're 52 years old, but you go to a Grateful Dead concert." He says, "Well, you know my apprentice, I've got X number of dollars in the account. Yeah, he's going to that concert. I'm going to make sure he comes back alive." Okay, how does that fit into the T10 student? Okay, we're going to do that one a little bit differently, okay, because they're only going to be there for 7 weeks, and then they're gone, and then they will come back again. This, I think you can use, up to your discretion. I would pay the master tech the day he leaves, the day the apprentice leaves. If he's got money in the account, I would pay him. We still netted 20% off of anything he produced over that 19.7 hours. So we made out. We made some money as a dealership. We got some briefly priced, pay or income for what we paid out. The master technician's obviously going to make some money, and the student has probably gotten some better jobs than he would if he was turning his oil change. And so I think that's what I would do with the T10 student when he comes back again. Just start that program right up again. Anybody have any questions? Has anybody currently used this? How did it work out for you?
Working great so far. I have 3 apprentices in my store now, Chrysler, Jeep, and a Hyundai, or Chrysler, Toyota, and Hyundai. And, I think my Chrysler apprentice is up to around $700, or the group leader is in the account. He's about 30 days away from initiating the 30-day
Okay.
wait period.
And how long has he been doing that program?
Let's see, I believe I've got 11 weeks credited to him. In other words, there were 11 statements that I filled out where the student exceeded his objective, and there were probably 3 or 4 along there that did not generate one of those forms because the student didn't exceed his objective. So we're over about 14 weeks.
Okay, that's not bad.
He's done pretty well.
Sometimes especially like if you're in a group situation or advanced production or teams type thing, sometimes the master tech will share that pay with the rest of the guys on the group or team, especially if he's ever matched them up with somebody. Like he may have somebody on his team or group that's exceptionally good on, say, electrical diagnosis or something, and he may take the apprentice and tie them together and work for a period of time. He will use some of that money to help, pay for their time too. But it's something you need to take a look at. I think something obviously a lot of guys are using currently. We have one obviously you're using it, but it's I think an easy way to kind of get the master technician to take a little bit more of a look at this guy. Also along the way, especially with the T10 program, you've got somebody working with that guy a little bit closer. And as we were talking last night about Jerry and I, he's gotten a couple reports back on T10 students that he really had a question as to why he was graded the way he was. I think this way you're going to get a little more input from the master tech. They can probably say it's got really good, but he does need a little more training in a particular area. Obviously, Jerry can find that out and then get back to school, push him more in that direction, to get him developed there too. But we're taking a little more interest in than we normally would if we don't have a method that ties one of the masters.
Something I've noticed about this apprentice program is it doesn't deal directly with parameter-based hiring, but with using the apprentice concept is that the masters are more on their toes. They know they're becoming a teacher, and for any of you who have taught anything, you get a whole lot better at it when you're teaching. The guys pay more attention when they go to training. They know that they're not just watched by the quality of the work that they produce, but by the quality of the student that they help to train.
It makes them feel a little more important too, because you ask them to be parent, I guess you might call it, for a short period of time. But that's very true. I think that's probably more true than anything. You learn more by teaching than you do. There's no other questions. That's all I have.
Listening to some of your master techs when I have them in class discuss the T10 student that they've been apprenticing and the whining and the crying because this kid's launching on his own and they've got to hustle to find a new one because they've become accustomed to this new source of revenue. Isn't it great? Now they've got a reason to be good teachers. This kid isn't a pest, all of a sudden he's an investment. And this is a win-win situation once again. The master tech is on his toes because he's scared to death this kid is going to turn out to catch him doing something wrong. Well, Mr. Bill didn't tell me that's the way to do it. Sometimes this kid knows stuff the master tech would never take the time to learn. Probably the biggest accolade I could give this entire program is when all the old heads stand around the shop scratching their heads saying, golly, I've never seen nothing like that. That can't hardly get fixed. And the kid that doesn't know any better out of T10 on his first co-op goes and gets the voltmeter and finds out what it was, just like Mr. Little told him. And we have had this happen repeatedly, as Fred and Jerry can both attest. And it just, thrills me to death when this happens. There's no corner of knowledge in this business, and some of the youngest ones are some of the sharpest ones. Just because you've been at it for 50 years doesn't mean you know everything you need to know. And if truth be told, some of your masters that supposedly are mentoring these so-called apprentices are going to school again. They're picking the brain of these youngsters coming in with the latest education and learning from them. Now, they're going to do the best they can to hide that. But it's definitely a two-way street going on out there. and nobody loses. Nobody loses. And then when you can sit down like Steve has done and put a pencil to it and prove that a dealer can make money out of the whole blame thing the whole entire time, it doesn't get any better than that. And Steve, I thank you for coming. I know you've got an airplane to catch, and I appreciate you coming and contributing to it
I'll hang around for a while.
being with us. Okay. Here again, an opportunity to get some of our GST people on this campus that don't normally know much about this program. Before we take a break, I just want to plant one more little seed and hope I'm not letting the cat out of the bag, but there was a very interesting meeting one night this week on this campus to begin some preliminary discussions about the potential of a parallel to our T10 technical training program, but on the parts side of the story and the ASM side of the story. And once again, OSU leads the nation. It hasn't been done, but if it's going to happen, this campus is the best equipped in the entire country, best we can figure out to make it go. So keep your fingers crossed, and all you guys know who our parts manager is, and you know who to call. And you all know Don Cole. So if that's of any interest to you, and you think there's a future for highly skilled, well-trained people in your parts department or on your service drive, put a good word in for it. And we'll see if we can make it happen. Why don't we take a 15-minute break? When we come back, we want to talk about co-op. Here today who, when you think of T10, probably has been more visible than anyone. T10 probably has been more visible than anyone else. You see my name on a sheet of paper, a training schedule, or a letter of some kind come across your desk, but you rarely see me out in the field like this. I'm certain, see Mr. Archambault on a routine basis, but he represents Toyota. When Jerry Biddle walks in your door, you know why he's there. He's Mr. T10. And I think that we started out this morning by saying that this program has been absolutely remarkable at this campus because of the people involved and the effort that those people have put forth. And just as Fred from the Toyota end of the business has made sure that the campus had as much as we could get for them and made the program as viable as possible, from the inside of the program would never have been as successful was it not for probably the finest T10 instructor that we have in the USA. One of the things that's kind of fun, the T10 program has its own bulletin board, its own computer system based on PCs and modems and so forth, coast to coast. And my secretary has one of those set up on her desk, and we daily look in there to see what's happening. And it's kind of funny, a name pops up almost more than anybody else's name on that screen as far as a user of the BBS. Everybody from coast to coast in this country knows who Jerry Biddle is. And that doesn't bother me one bit. When Jerry walks in, he's usually coming to your store to see how things are going and how the co-op is proceeding. And I know that one-on-one, all of you have been involved with him in that regard, and that you understand probably better than I do exactly what he's looking for when he's there. But we have never, as a manufacturer, said, gee, this is what you're supposed to do with this intern student, nor have we ever said, well, this is what you're not supposed to do with him. And I don't think we're ever going to. That's the school's business. They know what they expect that student to come back with at the end of the cooperative period. And I don't think either that it's going to hurt anybody to go out there in the parking lot and move a car if that's what you need done, or if it's an oil change, or if it's time to run that car back and put it on the wash rag and steam clean the engine. We've all done that. There isn't anything that we probably haven't done somewhere back along the line as we learned how. You pay your dues. And these T10 people are the same as you and me. But I think on the whole, our major concern during the co-op is that we guard the overall activities of this person to be sure that the learning experience continues. That they come back at the end of the 7.5-week period having done the things that need to have been done to ensure that they're ready to continue on to more difficult challenges in the next period here on campus. And that's exactly the things that Jerry comes by to check up on, not only to see if the student is performing up to your expectations, but if you're helping them do the things that need to get done. One of the things that every one of our T10 instructors have told me down through the years repeatedly is that, particularly if it's a young person, and realize that in this program, when you've got an 18 and 19-year-old and they're off to college away from mama and daddy for probably the first time in their life, you're not just teaching them how to fix cars, you're teaching them how to grow up and mature and be real people. And it's a thrill to see these young people in particular come back for the next semester on campus after their first co-op. They're greatly changed. They've had their taste of the, quote, real world. And when they come back, all of a sudden they understand why Mr. Biddle told them that you have to do this a certain way. The things that happen in the day-to-day life of our shop oftentimes can't be duplicated here on the campus. Yeah, they can do a great job, but they're not under the kind of pressures that you are. They need that taste of the real world and what this career is going to be really like when it's theirs permanently. And if they're going to wash out, that'd be a good time to do it, wouldn't it? If this isn't what I want to do, then maybe I'd better reevaluate my future. When they do come back, they're really ready to settle down, crack the books. Now they know what they don't know. And that next go-around on campus generally is a whole lot more serious learning situation than perhaps the first one was. And I think that that would be the mark in my book of a co-op well done. If the student comes back very serious about the future, with a good clear picture of what that future has in store for them and what they're going to need to know upon graduation to go back and be a part of that future. So good co-op is a very big concern to us as part of the program. Now, I'm going to ask Jerry to chair this next discussion, but that doesn't necessarily limit it to Jerry, because the rest of the expertise in this room certainly is free to chime in at any time. And with Mr. Doty sitting here and with Fred Archambault, who certainly visits all of your stores on a routine basis, anything that we can say, any questions that we can answer, anything that we can do to help you, if you have any concerns about what co-op is expected to be, this is an opportunity for all of us to have a forum. So with no further ado, Mr. Biddle.
If I need that, let me know. I'll try not to talk low enough for that to happen. How many of you have hired an individual off the street to work in your service department? Anybody? How many hours of training did that particular individual come to you with? You walked in off the street and said, please give me a chance. I think I want to be a technician or something in your service department. And so you did, you gave him a chance. And so did he come with 5, 6, 7 hours of training? Or more like 0? Would that be more accurate? What if he had come to you with 500 hours of training? Wouldn't that have been nice? Does that sound like a lot? 500 hours of training? How about 1,000? 1,000 hours of training. How about that? Wouldn't that be good? Well, the guy comes to you and says, I'd like to work in your shop. Please give me a chance. I've got 1,000 hours towards working in an automotive environment. How about 1,500 hours? Maybe 2,000. The guy comes to you, I've got 2,000 hours invested in training in automotive industry. Would you look at him a little harder? Still sounds like a lot, 2,000. How about 2,500 hours? Guy comes in off the street from an ad you put in the paper book. Says, I've got 2,500 hours of training. And he says, oh yeah, it's not just in automotive. I've even had a little bit of human relations, and I've had some psychology, some speech, and even English, and some math. 2,500 hours, sound like a lot? How about 3,350 hours of training? And this guy walks in and says, give me a chance. That's where our T10 students, when they come out of this program, just this program at OSU campus, has when he comes to your store. That's a little bit more than that 500 you wish that guy had when he walked in off the street. Now, that's not including anything he may have had in high school, and anything that he may have had at Tulsa Technology Center, or Indian Meridian, or any number of area code techs around the state. So 3,350 minimum. Let me stick that word minimum in there. If he's really after it and he knows that's what he wants, he might get all the way up to 4,000. He might have taken an extra class while he was here at school. We've got 3 guys right now taking an extra semester, what we call special problems or special projects. They don't have any problems. They do have one. They're ambitious and they want a chance. And right now they're taking 4 more months of training so that they can come into my program in August. I said my program. It's our program. It's your program. But we all have a personal interest in it. So when I say mine, don't get that mixed up. It is your program. It's not any one particular individual. It's everybody in here. So these 3 guys are going to come actually be available with more hours of training than just that. Just the minimum requirement. Now that doesn't include any seminars that they might attend here on campus that might be in test equipment, possibly spark plugs, maybe nuts and bolts. We have people come in from Norman and other places. That doesn't include those hours. That doesn't include any hours they might spend in the computer lab doing homework. It doesn't include anything that might be assigned in their automotive program. That's just their time in class, the time that they paid for to come to school. That's what we offer them. Included in that 3,300 hours is the internships in your stores, the co-ops. Toyota requires a minimum of 600 hours training in your stores. 300 one time and 300 at another time. How many clock hours, at 300 clock hours, how many days does that compute to? Alan, we had to do this. We had to figure out there's enough calendar days left in the semester for a person to complete because of a slow start. You've been to the horse races, sometimes some don't get out of the gate at the same time as others and have a little problem. Some stumble, some don't, but eventually they find the end. So Alan and I had to sit down and figure out if this guy had enough calendar days left, since they're not open on Sunday, if he could get in enough hours to complete. But 300, if you work out the math, it doesn't figure 40 hours a day, 40 hours a week for 8 weeks. That comes up different, doesn't it? And so in other words, if you're going to work the guy only 40 hours, and is there any technicians in your shop that they come in at 8 o'clock and they go home right at 5? Some of them come in a little early. I know some come in a little late. I've been out there. But do any of them just, it's 5 o'clock, throw the wrenches in the box, shut it, and out the door they go? They stick around a little longer. How about a T10 guy? Most of you have had a T10 student from this program. Does he come in early? Does he stay late? Longer than the 40-hour period. So if he just stayed there just for the 40 hours that week, he would manage to get 320 hours. But we only require 300. And we hope the guy's not inclined to just do the minimum and then walk out. But as far as the school's concerned, he met the requirements, but that's not the way it is it? They get out there and they'll put in some 60-hour weeks. And they don't mind, because they look at it as an opportunity to learn. These guys come into your shops at a minimum now, 3,350 hours of training. And then we ask them to car jockey. Yet, the guy we hired with no training, we asked him to car jockey too. And so when I'm out there, and this is about 160,000 miles ago when I started. That doesn't mean a lot to Fred because that's a week for him. But 5 years ago when I started the program, running up down the highway, I managed to put around 160,000 miles on a Toyota, or two of them now. And I realized real quick that when I walk into a store and the guy comes to me and says, "Hey, all I do is take customers home. Is that what I'm supposed to be doing?" I don't know. Let me see your weekly work log. Let me see your progress chart. Let me see your the things you've been doing. And I look on there, and in a 7-day period, you guys worked on 4 cars. Now either he's not very productive, or you're not very busy, or he's doing something other than what he should be doing. And so we look at this, and I don't know if it's ever been put in that 3,000 hours perspective for you. But he is capable. Obviously, you figured it out. He can talk, and he has a valid driver's license, so it makes him eligible to take the customer home. And he's had some human relations, he had some speech, and he might be able to carry on an intelligent conversation with somebody while he goes from point A to point B and back again. So we've got that much figured out. What we would like to see him do is mechanical things. We'd like to see if you will give him a chance to show you what he can do, and give him all the latitude you can by putting him under the best person in the shop that you find to train him. And so when I look on this chart that Steve Nelson handed out, it says senior technician. And generally that's a good way to put it, because the master tech in your shop, and all of you have a picture of him right now, the master tech in your shop may not be the communicator. He may not be the guy that can get the point across to the technician, to the trainee. And so you pick another guy in the shop, and that becomes the guy that trains him. He doesn't have to be the master tech. He doesn't even have to be a pro. But he's the best individual in the shop to get the training to that technician. So there's where the first link up comes in. I have to drag Fred in this now. The way we do things now, I'm going to explain that, and then I'm going to show you what I see in the future, especially after this meeting today. At the present time, a student chooses to come to OSU Okmulgee and enroll in the Automotive Service Technology program to learn about automotive technology. And he comes in and progresses through the semesters, and somewhere in that time period he finds out about T10. Finds about other things too, and he's making comparisons. When he gets to the end, or the middle of actually his 5th semester here, he will have been here for 18 months, a year and a half. Fred, myself, other district service managers, Terry Blakely when he's around, Vernon Sage, Rusty, any Gulf States people that we can bring in will step in front of this class that he's in, this 5th semester class, and say, here's what we've got to offer. We already know what they've got to offer. They've been here for 18 months. They've stuck it out. They've bought that tool set. They have a desire, a need, and they want a chance. And we see that. And now we come in and we spread this out about Toyota and shoot the straight stuff to them. I love to watch Fred in action. You've seen him in action. You know what he does in your stores. And we walk out. It's about a 20-minute presentation. Depends if I get up on the soapbox or not. And then we wait for the contacts. We just offer it to them and then say, hey, we're down the hall. You want to see us, we'll be in there. And usually we'll go in the classroom, we'll sit down, we'll sit there and drink a cup of coffee, talk about it, and wait to see if anybody shows up. Eventually there's a little knock at the door. We say, come in, and he walks in, I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about Toyota. So Fred gets to know this guy. Actually, and until that point, I may not know this dude. Steve may know him.
If I know there's a problem.
There's a problem. That's true. About the good and just bad. But we get to know this guy pretty quick, and Fred, as you know, and just like you guys, you have that knack when you walk out on the service drive and the guy's steaming, and you can see it coming from his head and out his ears, and you got this, the fists are clenched. Fred can read those people just like you can. And he spends about 10 minutes with his student. And in this conversation, he finds out where he's from, what he likes to do, where he'd like to go, a little bit about the family, just casual conversation. And the guy's interests have peaked by this time. Here's a factory person, as we used to say in Chevrolet. That's like the factory. Here's a factory person that's actually talking to them, sitting down at a table right across from him. Fred doesn't stand up when he talks, he sits down. He doesn't like to be above him, he likes to be down the same level. How many times you said that? And this guy, they start to develop this mutual interest in Toyota. And Fred says, well, if in the discussion it's decided that the student wants to intern, because that's really what the conversation is about, internships. Would like to intern in Oklahoma or District 5, then I guess the hook gets deeper. And what he tries to do then, because Fred's out there in your dealerships weekly, monthly, yearly, and he knows every one of your technicians. Knows them by name, knows them by training records, knows them by track record, knows them by integrity, knows them by everything. And he's talking to this guy, and he matches a personality. The guy says, I want to go to Ada. Ada America. And Fred thinks, well, it's who's in the store? Are they trained well enough to train somebody else? Do they have the personality that matches here? Because you have to have that blend, don't you? If you don't, you're setting yourself up for failure. So this is going on in his head, and I've been out, and I know almost everybody in here. We have a very good relationship. We've developed a trust, and we talk about things between each other. And I know some of the technicians pretty well now. It's been 5 years. Some of them are still with you. Some of them have been with you for how many years now? 20-something? 23 years? And I don't know all these guys that well, but Fred does. And that's why he's a vital part of this placement process, as it is now. As it is right now. And then Fred and this student find a mutual date that they can agree on to come visit your store. And Fred may or may not let you know that he's coming with the T10 student. I'm looking around to see how many faces smiled when I said that. And then either Mr. Doty or myself will land at that store at that time, and we'll sit down and have a conversation with one of you. And it may involve the dealer principal. If we were looking for the perfect interview session, it would involve the dealer principal, because he needs to know what's going on. And the best way to get a handle on that is one of these meetings or one of our little interview sessions. So we sit down and we either come to an agreement that this would be a good place and you can take on this guy, and we come to some sort of agreement that, yeah, this is an ideal situation, we're going to go on. And then we move on to the next guy, or the next girl, as the case may be. That's pretty much how it goes. So that remains dormant at that time until the internship starts. And we have done this usually 2 or 3 months ahead of time. So you know somebody's coming to your store. Now you know that they're not, Little Johnny off the street. You've got a little more training than maybe what you thought. You're here on campus, you've been introduced to some of the curriculum, you've met me, maybe you never have before. You know Fred, and that's the glory of this whole thing. Everybody knows Fred. And so when he walks in and the student's with him, it means a lot to the student, but it probably means a lot to you. And it means a whole lot to me and Mr. Doty. We make this long term. Maybe we're 90 days ahead, and you're looking forward to this guy. In fact, you wish he could start that day. Heard all these good things about him. But that's our setup. We'll talk about what happens when they start. That's the way it is right now. So if you were in the dark about how James ended up at Crow Brothers, or how Jeff ended up at Andy Ewing, or how Sean ended up at Jim Norton, or how, well, it didn't happen with Lloyd there, but
Got one,
yes, you do. But that's the way that it really got started. But that's going to change after today. After today, what we see happening is this. You will pick the guy you want. Not us bring him in because you're starting him here in the first place. That target recruiting that we're talking about, you found him. He's out there at Tulsa Technology Center. You know, he's somewhere in the state of Oklahoma or out of the state of Oklahoma. But you found him. He's in your store right now working. And you'd like to see him be successful, but where he's at right now, he can't be because he needs some training. And so you target this guy. You say, boy, if there's some way that we can get him to come to school, I'd love to have him back. Or he's in your community, maybe he's your neighbor. And you'll send him to us, and we'll talk to him, and we'll get him up to that 20th month. And the interview session that we had won't have to be there. It's a done deal. You already know the guy. He's at school. He comes back to see you occasionally. Because I know he's here, and I go find him, and I say, hey, how long's it been since you have been at Fowler Toyota in Norton? 4, 5, 6 months. Why? Why aren't you there more often than that? I don't know. We have a special tie here. Bill Dragoo sent you here. Offered you a scholarship. Got this thing going. Why don't you go in and see him? Say hi to him. Meet the technicians. I'll be there at such and such date. Meet me there. We'll go around and see him. We'll go have lunch. We'll give this guy a little tie early on. And then maybe we won't walk in with Fred and surprise you with the guy and say, you've got a T10 student, how do you like that? You know, we show up with a gift and you accept it reluctantly, it turns out to be something good. But that's how we want to turn this around. You go out and find the guy you want. And I mention that because you have people in your store now. I know of 2 stores in Oklahoma that have some people that need to be trained. They've reached about the level they can get to, and they need a break. And as Terry was saying early this morning, you think back somewhere in your lifetime, somebody gave you a help. Somebody pulled you up by the bootstraps and said, I think you can make it. Here's your push. And we can do that to the people we have right now in the store. Mr. Doty explained the process of scholarships and grants. And it's wide open. But we sometimes just have to show them the path. Just give them that opportunity. But out of this meeting today, and this is why we're breaking new ground, Terry says, we can increase your student load at OSU Okmulgee. If we can get the service managers or other dealer personnel involved. It doesn't have to be you, but pass it on to somebody. Several people. Maybe they know a person. That's why we say it branches out everywhere. Fred says his son's friend, they had no idea that he was interested in coming to OSU Okmulgee. that's usually a good place to finger those people. And, you know, there's an interest, and you can identify it. Maybe it's the guy that keeps coming into the parts store about every other day, buying parts for his Toyota. I said, wouldn't you really like to learn how to work on that for real? So you don't have to keep throwing parts at it. Here's an opportunity. And you see one of these brochures laying out on the parts counter, and he picks it up, and hey, this is a pretty neat deal. You know anything about it? So we need all your parts managers here too. Just snap your finger and bring them in here. Because they're also those recruiters, aren't they? Okay, that's how I see it moving to. Is you're going to send us the people that you want trained for your store. And you identified them by going to people like Buddy. And he looks out there, and he's not, Alan's his friend. And he's not saying, Alan, we got this guy over here that sits in the corner all day, doesn't do anything, and he's flunking. Would you like him? He's not going to do that. He's going to identify the cream of the crop. As Terry says, the cream rises to the top. And we've always said that we'd rather not have all the students in the T10 program. We only want the best. And so that's what we go for. And to do this, Fred dangles those carrots out there in front of you. And that's the contact right there. These guys see Fred, they see him around here often enough to know that he's got something to do with Toyota. I wonder if he can help me. So when we walk in there this semester, they already know it. He heard it helps with the picture contest. He's in and out of Steve's office. He's our contact. So he's vital to this program, as every DSM is. So if tomorrow, next week, or next year you find yourself in another district, the DSM will help you. That's a plug for T10 programs everywhere, okay? Now, I'm going to stop right there before I get into what should happen on internships, and you, if you have any questions right now about what I've talked about so far, fire away. Okay. I listened to Terry, and I'm back here and hearing him, you know, it's pumping me up, so I'll do a good job. Telling me that, you know, this premier program, all that. I don't deny none of that. We do have the best program. And I am the best instructor, and there is the best. I have the best department head. We have the best administration. And I wanna key in on that administration part. Who allowed me to drive 160,000 miles to visit all your dealerships and make sure the interns were doing what they should do and that they were getting treated like they should be? My administrator. He didn't have to. He could have said, Jerry, you stay here, I'll go. He could have triggered somebody else. You know, let Joe go this time. You don't need to be out there. We need you here. But he didn't do that. He knows that it is vital to this program and success of it that I'm out there visible in the dealership to the interns. It is unheard of, as all of you know, and Lloyd especially. You left this school to go to work. When was the next time you saw an official person from OSU?
Not until you walk in my shop.
15, 16, 17 years later, okay? I wonder how you succeeded. So I have to use Lloyd as an example because he was a graduate here. James, you graduated. When was the next time you saw a school official from OSU Okmulgee?
First time I came back down here for school.
But out in the real world, when did you see a school official? Didn't. Until I walked in?
Well, yeah, essentially.
All right.
You saying you didn't walk in?
It looked like a school official before. He has his jeans on.
That's something that Mr. Doty sees is necessary. And that's something that you know, if you graduated from college, anywhere, America, after graduation, how many people came to see you? Were you a number? Did anybody care? Or did it seem like that? We cared. You graduated, you're a number. All right. Were you successful? I don't know. Let's wait and see where you surface again. See if that happens. Well, these interns, and this is state of the art. It's what we do. The interns are out there, and sometime within that first week, their very first internship, and their very first week in your store, I want to be there. One day, I want to find out what's going on. You don't think that makes a student feel more comfortable? He's been looking at me for, gosh, 8 weeks. We know each other pretty well. He's been around here for, at that time, 22 months. And now I walk into the dealership, your store, and he sees me. And then all of a sudden, if there was a little bit of apprehension or maybe a lot, some of it goes away. Some of it goes away. And he feels a little bit better. He's more comfortable with it. And you may have noticed a change when I came in and left. You may have been worse off. I don't know. We hope it doesn't happen, but that's not what it's designed to do. The whole key is there's somebody from OSU Okmulgee to see your intern. That helps. It helps a lot.
I just got to tell you, in regard to those visits, you're applying a lot of emphasis there on that. First time that you came in, it was close enough to the time that my intern had come in. I was impressed. I thought the guy really was interested in what's going on. The second time, I was surprised. I thought, it hasn't been that long since he's been here. The next time that I saw you in there, there was no doubt in my mind this program was dead serious to you, to the students, and by golly, better be to me, too. You know, if there was any doubt in my mind up to that point that this was something that you intended to follow through on, it went away.
Good. And I have to, again, go back to the administration that says, yes, we'll free you up to go do your visit every other week. That's how often I was in your store. It may have seemed like 2 days as things go in the store, but every other week, I'm there to see my intern, your intern.
You weren't cutting me anymore, you belonged there.
Well, and I thank you for making me feel that way, because I do. And that's what I was trying to get across in the beginning. We have a mutual trust. We have a mutual interest. That's the student that's going to school here, trying to get an education, and that's your prospective employee. And we're going to make it work to the best of our ability. There are some programs in the nation that the instructors do not get around that often. And I'd say that that is one of the key factors in why they say we are a premier T10 program. Is because of being able to do the visitations like they should be done. And in our interpretation of that, that's how we see they should be done. When I had an intern, there's an exception or two. Let me explain that to you. I had an intern at Bone Brothers Toyota. Anybody know where that's at? You don't know where Nollins is? In New Orleans? It's a fur piece down the road. And I flew down there in an airplane. I didn't clock those miles in that 160,000. But that visitation could not happen every other week. So there are some exceptions to the rule. It's not possible, either financially and sometimes physically, to do an every other week intern visit. So somebody has to take in the slack. There has to be somebody there. We would hope a representative of the school, but that can't always happen. Steve made the first contact. So there was a school official visible. but it can't always happen. So somebody has to step in, and that's where, in that case, the DSM. We were in constant communication, and he took on a new role, as if he doesn't already wear 27 hats. He took on a new role as a representative of OSU in visiting the intern to make sure that things were happening like they should. Now, you gotta realize, we've been doing this for 5 years, and we're just like anybody else. If you've been in your position for a while, then you know that there was a learning process, and you made a lot of mistakes. And you toughed it out, you stayed where you're at, and you succeed. And we made a few errors along the way. We learn from that every time. It's a new learning experience. There are 15 dealerships represented in this room. And there are 15 different situations that I would encounter at every one year. Nobody's alike. No two are alike. No two technicians are alike, as you well know. No two interns are alike. And no two DSMs are alike. And so it's a learning process. And I have to get to know the environment that the students are in. And that can't be done in an hour. That can't be done in 2 hours. And it can't be done in one visit. And Mr. Doty understands that too. I'll leave here sometimes at 4 in the morning, drive to Arlington, Texas. I'm there at 8 o'clock. Why 8 o'clock? I could just as easily leave at 8 o'clock, get there at 12. I want to be there to see if my intern shows up at 8. Sometime during that first internship, it's not that I don't believe that he's on time. I just want to show him that I can get there at 8 o'clock too. And the funny thing that happened, I had a T10 intern in Amarillo. And I left here to drive to Amarillo. And I got there at 8:15. Intern got there at 10 after 8. He just beat me. And when he saw me, he was real red. And I couldn't figure it out. What happened? The service manager told me, he just walked in. You drove all the way from Okmulgee, Oklahoma, and you almost beat him here. Now, that's a little bit embarrassing to an intern. The instructor beats him. But to me, I've got to be there that early in the morning. Milton had an intern that was waiting on him every morning to unlock the gate. Every morning. He couldn't beat him there. I guess he could. I mean, he could have got there at 6. I don't know how Kelly got there at 30. And that's something that they know that sometime I'm going to be there. You guys don't put restraints on me in most cases. Alan doesn't say, let me know when you're going to be here so I'll know I will be. I just pop in, don't I? I don't always come in the same door. Harry knows what that goes back to. But I'll walk in the back door sometimes. I may spend a little time in parks before I ever show up outside. I may show up on the service drive. I may come in the showroom. Approach it from different angles. You don't know what day I'm coming. I don't want the interns to really know that. Now, if I'm flying to Bone Brothers, yes, I'm calling ahead. I want to make sure if I go 900 miles that Calvin's there that day. Although I have made visits when the interns were maybe at safety inspection school or something, this gives me an opportunity to visit with people without him around. And it's not 100% necessary that you be there every time. So don't get hung up on that. Because there's some things that I need to do with the intern that he can do a lot better without the service manager present. And it's usually not talking about you bad. It's just talking about you. Discussing the situation and how things are in the shop. That's his time to relate to somebody that's not in your facility. And this has to come up, and you've got to be thinking about dirty laundry. When I get the interns back here on campus, we have a getting used to the classroom period of time. And that varies from class to class, but what it more depends on is their experience in your dealership. They start comparing notes. gonna happen. Your techs do it on a day-to-day basis. And they call their buddies in the other stores, and they, they're all comparing, but I've got this group of individuals sitting here talking about, you got to do that, I didn't. You're getting paid what? You got a raise. You did what? When? To who? They did that to you? And this little period of time that happens when they get back, there is discussion. You guys do it from store to store. Fred was there, he's on the way, uh-oh. It's all the same. So, on that visitation, my main objective is to find out if you got the type of individual that you thought, and that he got the type of training that he thought was going to happen. And that takes a process. It can't be done in an hour. I've been known to be at a dealership 9 hours. I've been known to be there 30 minutes. Just depends. Whatever it takes, as that advertisement says, if you've got problems, we need to get them ironed out. And I walk in knowing that I do not have any jurisdiction. I have nothing in your dealerships except advice because of some experience now with internships. And over the past 5 years, we've developed some tools that help us measure this intern's success or his progress in your dealerships. We've invented some tools to broaden their horizons a little bit about dealerships. Now, even though they're coming to you with 3,300 hours of training, what do they know about the rest of your dealership? How long, Lloyd, have you been working in dealerships?
17 years.
Okay? In 17 years of working in a dealership, when did you realize what sales did?
Oh, it probably took quite some time. I didn't immediately know it when I first started working there. It probably took years, really.
How'd you find out?
Oh, just mainly by,
A little bit here?
yeah, a little bit here, a little bit there.
What if we could provide this T10 student, your prospective employee, some of that information now, so that he doesn't have to get it from here, from here, from here, and from who, and that guy too. What if we could provide him with some of that information now, so that he'd understand dealer operations? Would it make him a better employee? Could we do it without letting secrets out? Could we possibly just give him enough information that it doesn't take him 5 or 6 years to find this out, but he realizes that what dealer trades are. He realized what dropping from 85 units a month to 15 meant. Or maybe he realizes pretty quick that what it takes in advertising to bring a person onto the showroom floor. Is there any value in him knowing that? Or is it just busy work? Is it something that you need to understand? Or is it something that we can shield him from or would it help him? What if he understands the ASM's job a little bit better? We all saw a lot of smiles on your faces a while ago when Terry mentioned that we're in incubation stage now for a parts and ASM class. What if your technicians, and you've been on the line before, what if you understood the ASM's job? Or you just have a little more insight into it. Why he got so upset when you didn't meet the deadline. why he got so upset when you didn't write down the parts that you put on the customer's car. Why he got so upset when you didn't write down a complete description of what you did instead of repaired charging system. All right, so if he knows a little bit about what makes the ASM move, what motivates it, how can you guys have your job? I think it's got something to do with money. I mean, that's, if everybody, somebody said tomorrow, no more paychecks, you gotta do this for your health. How many of you go somewhere else, find a job? We all do that. I mean, that's why we're here. We get some personal satisfaction out of what we do. But there's money behind it. And what makes an ASM move? What motivates him? And how does a technician know that? Can we give him enough without divulging secrets? There's nobody that needs to know anybody's salary. But what about the things that make up the salary? Does he get a commission? Does he get paid by production? You know, those sort of things. Would that help the technician? Would it help you if you're on the line and a guy come back and was upset and you knew why? Could it help? So I've got some tools in place, and all they are is information sheets that require your signature. Now on the bottom it says service manager, and you have to sign off on it. And while you're at it, you look at this thing and go, I didn't know that. All right, one of the questions on the parts information sheet says, what is your fill rate? Everybody might have a different idea of fill rate. I found that out real quick. The perception of the parts personnel on fill rate was 80%. 8 out of 10 times the technician went to the counter and got the parts. I know that's the way it is at Grayson Motors and Service X, right? Well, the perception by the student was 60%, and the perception by the service manager was 40%. That 4 out of 10 times he got the part. You know, so it boiled down to that. And you're sitting there as a service manager, you're signing off, and you look up there and no way. Can't be. And I hope this would spark a discussion. You know, that you don't just sign off and say, here, get out of my face. You know, that you look at it, and then maybe you may want to go to the parts manager and say, why don't you take a little bit more time with this guy? You know, your ASMs probably work off of an average per repair order, right? That's something I just invented, Fred, or is it something that's real? So many hours per repair order. All of you are familiar with it. Technicians aren't. Most of them are. Lloyd, how long was it before you figured that out? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Oh, and I'll tell you that in a minute.
Okay.
After you start writing service.
Couldn't have done a thing for you while you were a technician, though, right?
Not that I perceive.
But it might explain why the guy's a little hotter than the car. And it might also help you as a technician understand why you need to upsell. Well, I've got a job sheet on upselling. And it requires your signature. And you have to verify it. They have to list at least 2 upsells that they did. And all this stuff happens in their second internship. I don't bog them down in their first internship. They're trying to figure out where the bathroom is, where the back door is, you know, how come that guy frowns at me when I come in. Those sort of things on their first internship. The second internship, they get a barrage of paperwork. And now you have to sign off on these things and take an interest in those. Their weekly production schedules, they figure it out percentage-wise. It may not match yours. That's a good time to discuss it. I had one student that wrote down he did a tune-up in 1.2 hours. That was fine, except the service manager knew that it took him 3 to do that job because he had problems with it. What did that do to his production? What did it do to his efficiency? Went down the number, didn't it? But he wanted to say that he was more efficient than he really was. Those are occurring things that go on while they're on internship. What used to happen is something that Steve Nelson said. This was great. Underneath the first area there in his little handout, it said that the intern or apprentice, as it says, needs to turn in a flag sheet every week, or daily, it says. how hard is it for me to find out how the intern is doing in your shop if it's buried under the master tech's number? It's impossible. Well, it's not impossible. It just requires a lot of digging to find out how many hours this guy helped the master tech. Did he do any of it by himself? So instead of you doing that, and I was glad to see that, it would be nice if it happened. But I've been told that it can't happen in every place because of the pay arrangement that they have and various things. And that's okay. So we invented this other tool to check his productivity and efficiency. And the flag hours. So if you wonder what he's doing, writing this stuff down, and you wonder why productivity might be a little bit down, it's because he's spending some of that time keeping records. Record keeping is important. The first thing I do when I walk in, when I eventually get to him, which may be first, it may be after I've been there an hour, is let me see your weekly worksheet. And he shows that to me, and that's when I get alarmed. LOF, 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 PDI, PDI, LOF, LOF, great job. PDI, PDI, LOF, LOF, rotate balance. So what I do then is I go to James and say, hey, Brian's got, gosh, I don't know, he's worked on 26 cars this week. 2 of them were actual something that required something I learned in 3,300 hours of training. Is everybody in the shop doing that many PDIs and LOFs, or you just don't trust this guy? Or is he the fastest? Because his efficiency now is 166%. That's what he's figured out down here at the bottom, 166%. Oh, it's great. And so I'm looking for an answer. And that's when the advice kicks in. So James, could we possibly, maybe, give him 4 more different cars to work on this next week? You know, and you know how it goes in the shop. The guy's on the hour. You give him a PDI, he's good at it. He's 166% efficient. He's real good at it. He's proven himself trustworthy on that PDI. And you're going to do real well on that PDI because he gets $6 per hour. And he might do how many in that 1 hour? You know, I know how it goes. And it's tempting, it's very tempting. But are we utilizing the intern to the best of his ability? Is he getting what he should? No, and what happens is the red flags are going up. I walk in, I see this real cross face. What's the matter? Well, I think I want to go to another dealership. Why? Well, I'm getting tired of doing PDIs and LOFs. So, well, maybe that's the only thing coming in the door. You know, so I go to somebody and I'll say, Bobby, is that the only thing you got coming in? And he says, well, no. But that's the only thing he can handle right now. And that's possible. So how are we going to get to know whether he can handle something else? Is that's, you know, acclimation by fire, which is, you know, let's just try him on. You know your customer. You know, John may say, well, I think I'll try Jeff on maybe maybe putting a new head gasket on the truck. And he knows the customer's going to be on vacation. He's got 5 days to work on it, and it gives enough time. And Jeff has to complete it in 3 hours. Because Jamie helped him. And you know that's something he tried to do, and he feels a little bit better about it. John feels good about it, and now we can go to something else. And Jerry comes in and looks at the sheet. Wow, that's good. A head gasket. I know what that involves. First time I put a student in Toyota Tulsa, I walk in and I looked at it and it said head gasket, Super Turbo. And the first thing I thought of was a T10 student doing a head gasket on a Super Turbo. That you just, so I'll look out beside there and it says 12 hours, actual time. Well, that's not bad either, considering the job. It's not too bad at all. Not real efficient, but did he learn anything? Yeah. When I asked him about it, he says, I hate it. And the master's tech said, I love it. He did it. Well, we had to help him 2 or 3 times. Couldn't find that bolt hidden underneath there. Took him 3 hours to find that, so you really knock that 12 down to 9. But that's the interaction that I need when I come into your store. That's, you know, the day in the life of the T10 student is kind of rough. His first week on that job is a brand new experience. Probably never had that experience. Now, Mike's got a guy right now that is T10, but he's way back in his 2nd semester at school. He hasn't had the training, but he wanted a summer job. Needed a place. He was going to go do something else, and I suggested to him, since he lived close by, that he go see Mike and see if he could use him for something during the summer to get him used to the store. Maybe not just that store, but Toyota in general. How it operates, you know, life in a Toyota dealership. And by the time he gets to me, his experience or his first day on the job not going to be near as rough. And whether it happens at Mike's store or somebody else's, he's still going to know the fundamentals of how things happen. He's also going to find out real early, anybody, that I don't like this, or I really do like this. You know, that's the way it's going to go. And that's what's the real good part about you guys target recruiting for us, is that you've already identified the student, you've already got a relationship with him, and he can come in when we're maybe out of school for a week or 2. Maybe he can come in and you know, learn what goes on. Our advisory committee, made up of you. In the advisory committee, what you do is try to help us decide what the student needs and what can make his transition maybe into your store a little bit easier. Our advisory committee suggested that rather than wait until the first day that a student showed up in your shop to start his internship, that we put him in the store for 1 day prior to that. Best thing ever happened, wasn't it, Fred? He's in my class. We determine a day when everybody can go to their respective dealerships for 1 day. It doesn't matter whether it's in North Texas or whether it's in Kansas. They can all get there and spend 1 day in that dealership. By spending that day in the dealership, they've got this list of things that they need to do while they're there, right, Bill? There's like 27 different things they need to accomplish in that 1 day. Some of those things, and most of those things, are just getting acquainted with the environment. They spend some time in parts. They spend some time in new car sales. They spend some time with maybe the wash guy. They spend some time with the technicians. They spend some time with you. They hopefully go to lunch with you. You don't duck out about 11:30 and hope he's not there when you get back. You take an interest in it. If you know the guy that's going to training, you put them together. You say, hey, let's go eat lunch. Or you guys go eat lunch. Here's the point. And they go get to know each other a little bit. They come back. And when he comes back, he may have a different attitude to Master Tech. When you don't want to work in this store. But he may also say, well, I want you here. You're padding my pockets. Their productivity goes up, that Master Tech does, and it helps. They spend that day in the dealership, and this has been one of the best things that's happened because they don't go into that shock, that initial industry acclimation by fire first day jitters. They know where the parking lot is, they know where they're supposed to park the car. They didn't put it in front of the service drive, get out, take the keys, and then go to work. They know where the restroom is, they know where the tools are. You've shown them your special tool room that you're so proud of. You've shown them all of your books and how nice and tidy that room is. You've shown them everything. And they've just been blown away. I got this item, you've initialed all of these things on this page, and they come back to me and they say, man, I didn't know there's that much involved in that. And then I've been to your stores, and I'll say, well, did you meet Bruce? What's he look like? Well, he's this real tall guy, a little bit uglier than I am, and a whole lot fatter. Yeah, I remember him. And we get to talking about, you met the parts manager? Yeah, shortly, briefly. Well, what'd you do with him? Well, stood there and watched him work. Saw the technicians on one side, saw the parts people on the other, and it's an observation. And we even had a dealership that paid this prospective employee for that day that he was there. And he punched the clock. I haven't punched that anyway. But we had a little situation that I think that Alan and I did, but the guy come in, but he wasn't there long enough. You know, so they punch in the morning, and they punch out when they leave, and they come back, and I look at this sheet, and it's got the clock time on there, and I know they've been there. You know, of course, if they've got the check to show they've been there too, that's even better, and they're happy, and everybody else is envying. But that's something that has evolved out of you guys telling us what our program should do, and it is very, very beneficial. Tremendously big help. And if I've been out to your store and I know where you're located, I know some of the people in there, and I know the personalities, then we can talk intelligently to each other. And the best part about the second internship, or the second time they're here on campus before the internship, is now we can talk about not just what they did, but how they did it. What I miss. Anything?
Oh,
Excellent. Fire some questions then. Eric?
Well, that's what I'm saying, it's not a question.
Yeah.
Not a question, but just a comment that I feel like I need to say just because of being a graduate from the school. Been in that situation as far as leaving the school, and this school has a very good, I'm very proud to be a graduate from the school. But it has a unique situation that they have a great placement of people, even when I was in school here 17 years ago, and really trying to help that person get placed somewhere. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go to a job interview to a service manager at his home on a Sunday evening and get hired at that store. And I was placed in the store and my interest was in tin up and electrical at that time. And it was because of a teacher here at this college by the name of Everett Allen who still works here. And that's the reason I took an interest and really progress. So I know how important as far as the teacher is to the student on that end of it. And I got placed in a store called Scott Chevrolet in Oklahoma City. But the big point that you made as far as that I got in there not as an oil change guy or a PDI guy. I got placed as an apprentice to a senior technician that had been at it for quite some time. And this person became not only a teacher to me, but a great friend. And I was apprentice for about 8 months, and I learned probably more from that one person than I did at any other time as far as in the business, as far as the mechanical end of it. So it's something that you really have to give that person a chance as far as to show his ability and let him learn along with the senior technician. And from that point, like I said, how did you ever succeed? Well, the reason I did is because I got with a person that really helped me. And I was able to learn a lot from the dealership from that. But yeah, just like the first time I went in, I didn't know where to park, or never been there, or never met another person, felt like a fish out of water. And but somebody to sit there and take you by the hand, show you around, show a little interest in you, and to this day is a very good friend of mine. And but that makes a lot of difference.
Then you go to OSU, my technical background as far as the VOTEC was at Sparksville Aeronautics in Tulsa. And I think that, I digress a little bit, as parents we forget the level of intensity that our kids feel when they have an experience. If we reprimand a kid, sometimes we do it on an adult level as though we were trying to get a point across to an adult, and it's overdoing it. And then we also forget how little it takes for them to really learn a lesson, to learn something from their experiences. When I was towards the end of my time at Spartan, I was surprised that somebody wanted me, that they even knew who I was, you know. And it was because there were people out in the field. In this case, it was Airman Incorporated, a fixed-base operator in Norman, that wanted a student from Spartan to come and work for them. And so when I graduated, it was a natural thing to go right back home and to get in there. That meant a lot to me. But nobody took me in and gave me, even showed me where to park, for heaven's sake, much less, you know, how to do things their way. I was expected to know that. I had much less indoctrination into how to work in the field by far than what anybody graduating from this program does. If we get the kind of training that we get to those students that Jerry provides and the school provides, plus what we can do welcoming those students into our dealership, I think that we generate a lot of commitment, a lot more commitment than we would realize from that individual. Little things like what you mentioned about paying them for that day that they're in the store. Man, to us it's like, man, you know, is that really a big deal? It's a little bit of a savings, you know, we probably save 30, 40, $50 by not paying them there. Man, what an impact. Be thankful.
What we found going in early on, the student, when he showed up to work the first day, the first week, was not the people in dealership, as you well know, don't always take in a new technician, you know, with open arms. And what we were finding is, like on my first visit, second, third day, I show up and they say, you been to lunch with them? No, they leave me here. You know, and something little like that, which, you know, may seem small, but it's not. They're not accepted. You know, you had a Christmas party. Did you go? Well, no, I really didn't feel included. You know, well, why? Well, it's a lot of little things, just like that. And that's what we worked on in the beginning. If we could just make these students feel comfortable that they're wanted. Lanny, right now, in Enid, says it's the most friendliest place he's ever worked. They accept him with open arms. He loves it. Just loves it. And that's because of all the little things that maybe you guys do unknowingly.
I want to say something about Lanny. I wanted to make sure that we didn't do all changes of PDIs. I foresee I want to make sure this guy does it. We're picking our own, it maybe costs us a little bit more, but that was going to be an investment in the future. That's what I look at. And tell you a story about Lanny. He's built, we had a 57 phone there. He's built antifreeze. Oh, we paid him. You know, he thought we was going to be pretty excited. Well, I didn't get excited. I would be paying for those things going to happen. But well, I think he felt right.
He learned something there too, big lesson. And not only about what you people are about, but about what his responsibilities are.
Well, explain who Lanny is to these guys. They got a picture of a 20-year-old kid.
Lanny is 52 years old, retraining as an automotive service technician, has a background in construction, and also aircraft mechanic. And employment, as you know, in those areas, is not always long term. You move here, you move there, you go where the job is. And he is just absolutely still in a maze about T10. Because nobody's ever, when I go up with him, we meet Steve, Fred was there, and we're driving home. I took him there, I bring him back, and he says, never in my life, 52 years, has anybody taken an interest, that much interest in me, in helping me secure a position. He says, I know that I've got a position there if I want it. And that's where we're cultivating this now. Do you want him? Does he want you? We're gonna make that work. There's no question. You know, it's a great situation. We went through this stage in the beginning. Well, how do you flag your tickets? Well, I don't. Do you have a number? All technicians have numbers, I think. Anybody, technician in your shop that don't have a number? interns went in with no numbers. That seemed like a little thing. But I go in, and what's your number? What's your technician number? I don't have one, I use his. There's no identity. You know, it's buried somewhere. You know, and then the guy gets his little doubt. Some things go wrong, and he says, well, do I really belong here? Are they that iffy about this situation? So those little things, you know, can we get him a number? How about uniforms? Well, you talk about like pulling teeth in the beginning. Guy go through an internship, he's still wearing jeans and his t-shirt, and everybody else in the shop has uniforms. And you know, I know that's an investment, but you know what it means to a technician on the line that looks like everybody else? It means a lot to them. And so I'm out there plugging for uniform. You know, what's going to happen? John says, send him over here. You know, Muskogee's not very far. He says, send him over here at 10 o'clock on Monday morning. That's when the uniform guys come in. We'll have the uniform from day one. Works great. You know, can we arrange this day in that we're talking about on uniform day? You know, it's a little coordination process, but can it happen on the day your uniform guy shows up so he can get measured? Or can he go to the uniform company, or in the case of Dennis back there, the uniform company came to OSU Okmulgee to measure. Never heard of before, but your uniform company did. Somebody had to put them up to it. We didn't. You know, we didn't ask them to come here, that they did. And I don't even know where they're based, but it was not Okmulgee.
Right out of Tulsa.
Okay? But that to me was phenomenal for somebody to do that. But we're trying to put these guys in uniform from day one. That means a lot to them right there. It's these little things that they feel like they're part of the group. You know, and they're not left out. And another thing, and I don't know if I mentioned, and I'm sure you grasped this already because you train a bunch of technicians, there is no set time that training or that the guy makes a transition from under the umbrella of the trainee or trainer. There's not a set time for that. It might be graduation day. It might not. If it's graduation day, so be it. If it's not, then let's not lead them to believe that. You know, there's not this big, they don't change form on graduation day. Graduation comes and goes. There's one thing that marks it here, and that is their lunch. Their lunch and their graduation ceremony that you guys attend. If you've got a graduate, you've got a T10 guy coming in, you're here. And you know what goes on that day. And they feel like they're really something, and that's what we want them to feel like. And they go to graduation ceremony that night, and they're part of the big picture then. You know, but when that day's over, you know, maybe that's on Tuesday, and they walk in the shop Wednesday, they're the same guy they were Monday. Unless you've told them that we're going to bump you up as a reward for doing well, or we did this 2 weeks ago, we're not going to do it again now. You know, that you guys decide that. But don't let them believe that when graduation comes that they're automatically going to be transformed into something different. Because I see this, I hear it when I'm out there visiting with them. You know, and the things I hear, well, I'm not going back there for $6 an hour. Well, have you talked that over with your service manager? Oh, no. Why not? Well, I don't know. Communication. Got to open them up. And that's what really brought on these job sheets, was communication. If you've got to sign it, he had to communicate with you. He had to sit down across the desk from you, or standing out on the server drive or something, and he had to say, I know Phil now. Because sometimes the service manager is somebody they never meet. And that can't be, can it? That just cannot be. It's got to be somebody that interacts with him every day, or at least once a week. So we brought that into this picture. So you're part of that. Kind of drug you into it, I guess. And it worked well. James, I need to mention something here. James was in charge of an intern in Bartlesville. And I walked in one day, and Brian wasn't real happy. This was his intern. And I said, Brian, what's the matter? He said, well, James won't help me. Now, what do you mean he won't help me? He just won't help me. Just go over and do that. I ain't gonna help you. They're not paying me. That was the problem in the beginning. And they didn't pay you. That's it.
Part of it was, they didn't even really tell us what we were supposed to do.
There you go.
They said, here's an intern, watch it. That's what I got. Well, what about the time it takes to watch him? This is the way I put it to the service manager at the time. But I'm not working, not making my money because I'm on a full commission. You know, that was the attitude I got from my service manager at that time. And I don't know, probably the time you were probably talking about or whatever, Brian, if I still got Brian, was probably one of the days that I was up to my ears in something, and I didn't have time, you know. But that was the thing, I was gonna say something, that initially, especially, and Brian wasn't the first T10 that we had up there.
Right.
Keith was the first one, and they told me absolutely nothing on him, just said, oh, we got this guy come from Okmulgee, and this new program that they're doing down there, and we want you to watch him occasionally, see that how he does. Never said, hey, give him some good job, or not good job, but not all changes. Or just like you're going after right now, which is what you're doing now, which is better.
And, you know, here's a guy that's now on the other side of the fence. And I walk into this situation as destined to fail because there's been no communication with the person who is supposed to be doing the training. Okay? And where am I at now? I enter this picture and James says, hey, I'm not helping you, Biddle. I don't care what you say, I'm not helping. And, you know, I've got a T10 student now in this dealership that is not receiving training unless he gets it from somebody else. And he's the Toyota Master Tech.
I'm the only Toyota
Yeah.
tech.
You know, and so it
Which
becomes-
is another thing that you have to understand too, Jerry, that I was the only Toyota tech.
I knew that.
And I was up to my ears in work every day.
Had the program been explained to you,
He would have got a lot more help out of it.
and you could have been compensated.
But he probably wouldn't know, baby. If you probably talk to more people in the shop before Brian says this, you would have found that I did at the time more help, never getting compensated, helping everybody else in the shop. And Brian took me wrong. It's probably what happened, but there again, there was a lack of communication
Right.
between what was to happen with the program and the way it ended up.
And you guys are sitting here, I do ask that question to that intern. Did you sit down with the service manager and discuss pay? And then I go to the guy that's training him, and did the service manager talk to you about the intern and how you were getting paid? And you what my answer is 60% of the time? No. They just said, we're gonna take care of it.
Yeah.
That's the answer I get back. We're gonna take care of it. What's that mean? You know, we're gonna feed you more cars, or we're gonna pay you a little bit better salary, or we're gonna give you the time, or we're gonna understand, or you're gonna get the time off, or what does it mean? We're gonna help you out, you know, we're gonna. And so I get real apprehensive, and so does Fred, and you know, my next contact then is Fred. Say, do you know any more about this than what I'm being told? Because, you know, Eric got feeding 2 lines. And he may say, well, I know it was handled, because he heard the conversation. Okay? But that's one of the big hiccups in the beginning was, and still is, the guy that's doing the training, if he's identified early on, did he ever get talked to by you, the service manager, about how he is going to be compensated for what he's doing? And that's why I'm glad James is here. Because, I mean, boy, it just hits the nail square on the head. It's you know, and I don't know that's a real big communication problem. We've presented a thing to you today, a way to do it, that is or can be profitable to everybody involved.
a minute, and this comes from personal experience more than anything else. We've been talking for quite a while about getting this person in the dealership and making them feel comfortable and, you know, that nice, warm, fuzzy feeling that everybody would like to have when they start a new job. But to this day, I remember my first experience of climbing on an airplane, getting off an airplane, spending the night in a university gymnasium on a cot until the next morning when we got indoctrinated, and absolutely no idea what was going on. But looking back on it, it was an adventure. It was something that I can tell my kids about. And so you don't, you know, yes, we want to give them that nice, friendly, warm, fuzzy feeling, but you don't want to take away that maturing process of making them take that step out there and shaking somebody's hand. You know, let them take that step into your store and find out what's going on. You know, then take them by the hand and go on. But there is a maturing process as well when they take that first step into their first occupation, their first job. And all of us have to get through it one time or another. It's not a fun one, but you got to get there and you got to experience it. You know,
I would like that these job sheets take that to that step, and that they not be able to hand it to somebody and say, hey, go have this filled out for me. That they have to walk into that new car manager's office and say, hi, I'm Emmanuel Samuels, I'm a T10 student. And he says, what's T10? The question on there is, what do you know about OSU and the T10 program? And what do your new car managers know about the OSU's T10 program right now? And this guy walks in and does that, and most of them put in there nothing. Unbelievable. It's not unbelievable, it's believable. It happens. But you know, that's walk into the parts manager and sit down with him across the desk. One of the questions is, back in sales, is what's your PMA? And one of them wrote down positive mental attitude. Okay, primary market area is what we were looking for. We've discussed it in class. And the idea here, and Fred will back me up on this, we're trying to achieve 100% CSI. That's all our goal in here, right? Every store would love to be 100% all the time. And we take an employee and we remove some of the apprehensions, and we show him where to park the car, where to park the customer's car, what to do with the keys. You know, this whole getting used to period. And in the process, CSI goes up for some reason. The guy off the street that had 0 hours training had no idea what CSI was, or could care less about it, and he took the keys and stuck them in his pocket and went home with them. T10 student comes in with 3,300 hours of training, and he knows that if I put that key in my pocket and I go home with it, the customer's going to be upset, and CSI is going to go down. That's what it all boils down to, bottom line, CSI. And that's what we're molding these guys and getting this way out front. Building this so your CSI can go up. And Fred has T10 help in District 5. CSI. Has it helped CSI in District 5?
Sure it is.
T10 guys help Grayson Motors any? I would go around the room, but I don't think I see any of this. I hope not. All you guys soon are going to be asked if you want a T10 student, because I've got half a dozen of them coming up in August. You know, so don't get excited if Fred walks in and says you need a T10 student. Hopefully today we've told you what they're about, what we would like to have happen, and maybe 2, 3, 4 semesters, 5 semesters down the road, you'll be telling me which guy you want. He's already in my class, and he already has John's stamp of approval. That's a better way to do it, wouldn't you say? They're from your hometown. they're your pick, and you've already known them for a year and a half.
Let me throw something out here, and I don't think we hit on this really well, is that we're gonna target a recruit, you're gonna send that guy from your area, he's still gonna go through Main Street, remember that? 5 semesters, is that right, Steve? Main Street, okay? He is still going to see some Chevrolets, he's gonna see some Okmulgees, he's gonna see some Jeeps, he's gonna see everything. So he is not just gonna be Toyota specific for you guys that are doing it, okay? That's a prime situation. It don't get any better than that.
What about a student that's been to vocational for 2 years, extended, you know, not just as far as in high school, but took some extensive training out of that? Can he come in and teach in school without going through Main Street?
Every student is allowed to articulate into the program at some level or another. That simply means he can, if he likes to, he can take a test.
Test passed it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you ever done this?
Yeah. Students will articulate and will take the test. What we find really interesting is that 90-some% of them that take the test, and of course they all don't pass, but even the ones that pass, very seldom skip the class. They just want to see if they can do it. And they'll take the class anyway, and again, relearn the way we want them to learn. The worst thing that can happen, and we tell them is, you're going to get an A in that class. The worst thing can happen to you. But if they truly have those